You ever notice how some people walk into a room and instantly shift the atmosphere, not because they're loud, not because they're trying, but because there's something unshakable about them. You can't explain it, but you feel it. It's confidence without arrogance, peace without pride. They don't chase validation, validation follows them. And I'll tell you why, because they live by 4 words: I don't need this. Let that sink in, not with bitterness, not with ego, but with peace, with clarity, with quiet strength. See, the moment you can look at a situation, a person, or even an opportunity and say, I don't need this, you set yourself free. You detach from the outcome. You take your power back. You stop performing for approval and start walking in purpose. That's where attraction begins, not when you try to get something, but when you already are something. We think attraction is about trying harder, saying the right thing, doing the right thing. But people can feel energy. They can sense when you're coming from lack, when you're trying to prove your worth. And they can also feel when you're whole, when you don't need them to complete you, but you'd welcome them if they align with you. I don't need this isn't rejection. It's refinement. It's the filter that keeps your peace intact. It's not pushing people away. It's protecting your spirit. When you stand in that truth, you don't repel love, you attract real love. Because the energy of neediness says, validate me, but the energy of detachment says, I'm already enough. That's the shift. That's the power. You start walking differently when you know that your joy, your peace, your identity are not negotiable. You stop bending for people who were never meant to carry your worth. You stop over-explaining to those committed to misunderstanding you. You start living from overflow, not emptiness. And when you do, people notice. They feel the calm, the confidence, the quiet assurance that you're not here to impress anyone. You're here to express truth. That kind of peace draws in the right people and naturally releases the wrong ones. So the next time you feel the urge to chase, to please, to beg for what's already yours, pause, breathe, look yourself in the mirror and say, I don't need this. Not because you're cold, but because you're complete. That's where real attraction begins. Not in wanting, but in being. Attraction isn't something you create by force. It's something you allow by presence. When you reach a state of peace so deep that it can't be shaken by who walks in or who walks out, people start to feel something different around you. They can't always name it, but they know it's rare. It's the kind of peace that feels like home, a calm confidence that doesn't need to perform. That's what draws people in. Not the words you say, not the look in your eyes, but the energy that says, I'm okay no matter what happens. When your heart is steady, others sense safety. It's not about pretending to be unaffected. It's about being anchored in who you are. There's a stillness in someone who knows their worth. You can see it in the way they speak, measured, gentle, yet firm. You can hear it in the pauses between their words, unhurried, deliberate, comfortable in silence. That peace becomes magnetic because it's so uncommon in a world addicted to noise, validation, and constant proving. Think about it. Most people are reacting, chasing, convincing, over-explaining, trying to be seen. But someone who's at peace doesn't chase. They attract. They don't need to fill every silence or force every connection. They understand that what's meant for them won't pass them by, and that calm becomes their gravity. It's the spiritual energy of detachment, not indifference, but assurance. The difference is powerful. Indifference says, I don't care. Detachment says, I care, but I'm not controlled. When you embody that kind of peace, you become the eye of the storm. Everything around you can be chaotic, but you stay centered. People feel that. They start to lean towards you, not because you asked for attention, but because your stillness feels like truth in a world full of noise. You stop having to prove your value. Your energy proves it for you. And here's the divine irony. The moment you stop needing anyone to validate your worth is the moment everyone wants to be near you. Because your peace reminds them of what they've been missing, a connection that doesn't drain, a presence that doesn't demand, a love that doesn't cling. That's real attraction, the kind born from inner stillness, not outer striving. Control is the enemy of connection. The moment we try to grip, shape, or manage how others see us, something sacred breaks in the flow of relationship. Connection thrives in openness, not in pressure. When you release the need to control outcomes, to make someone stay, to make someone understand, you create space, and that space is where real attraction begins. Detachment is not walking away from people. It's walking away from the illusion that you can make them be who you want them to be. It's understanding that love, respect, and loyalty must be freely given, never demanded. When you let go, you stop fighting for energy that doesn't return. You stop overinvesting in places where your peace is constantly taxed. That's the essence of emotional mastery, choosing stillness where others choose struggle. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means your feelings no longer dictate your worth. You can love deeply without losing yourself, care sincerely without collapsing into need, and show up fully without begging for reciprocity. That balance is rare and it radiates power. People are drawn to those who hold space without control. There's a quiet confidence in someone who doesn't rush outcomes or demand certainty. Their energy says, I trust life, I trust timing, I trust myself. And that kind of trust makes others feel free. You stop suffocating connections with fear, and suddenly the right people start showing up not out of obligation, but resonance. Control is fear disguised as effort. It's the belief that if you do enough, say enough, prove enough, you'll finally be chosen. But detachment says, if it's mine, it will stay. If it's not, it will go. That's not cold, that's clarity. That's peace rooted in faith rather than anxiety. When you master detachment, you start to move differently. You no longer react to silence with panic or to distance with desperation. You stop chasing closure and start choosing composure. You learn to stay calm in uncertainty because your spirit knows what is meant for you doesn't need to be chased. It recognizes you when you're still. True connection doesn't happen when you hold tighter. It happens when you hold lighter. In that freedom, the real ones come closer, not because you pulled them, but because your peace invited them. There's a shift that happens the moment you stop needing to be chosen. It's like the noise quiets inside you. You stop scanning rooms for approval, stop rewriting your words to sound acceptable, stop bending yourself into smaller shapes to fit other people's comfort. When you release that need, something sacred takes its place, self-respect. And that self-respect, that grounded sense of, I know who I am, becomes magnetic. You don't chase attention anymore because your presence has already earned it. The energy of someone who doesn't need to be chosen feels different. They walk with calmness, not arrogance. They move with assurance, not aggression. You can feel it when they speak. There's no grasping, no over-explaining. Their tone carries weight because it's rooted in peace. People are drawn to them because they're not trying to convince anyone of their worth. They're simply being. And in a world that constantly screams, notice me, the one who whispers, I'm good, becomes unforgettable. When you no longer crave being chosen, you make decisions differently. You stop waiting for permission to start living. You stop hoping someone will see your value and start showing it to yourself. You stop chasing validation and start cultivating alignment. You understand that being chosen by others means nothing if you haven't first chosen yourself. That's where your power lies, not in being selected, but in standing firm in your own truth. People often misunderstand this energy, thinking it's pride or detachment. But it's actually deep peace, the peace that comes from knowing that your worth isn't up for negotiation. You no longer attach your joy to who stays or who leaves, to who applauds or who criticizes. You become anchored. And in that stillness, you become irresistible because confidence rooted in self-acceptance is the most attractive force there is. Here's the divine paradox. When you stop needing to be chosen, you start being chosen more. Because energy never lies, and people can sense when you're complete, you no longer emit the vibration of, please pick me, but I'm already whole. That frequency draws in those who are also whole, those who see you without projection or pretense. The moment you stop needing validation is the moment you become magnetic, not because you're seeking love, but because you've become love itself. I am enough. 4 small words, but when they're lived, not just spoken, they shift the entire direction of your life. Most people say them like an affirmation, but the real power comes when they become your identity. When you stop using them to convince yourself and start using them as the truth you move from. I am enough is not arrogance, it's peace. It's the quiet knowing that nothing you gain will make you more valuable and nothing you lose will make you less. It's the end of striving for approval and the beginning of living from fullness. When you truly believe you're enough, you stop chasing people who make you feel like you're not. You stop overcompensating, stop performing, stop proving. You begin to live from a steady center where you can give love freely because it's no longer tied to whether it's returned. People can feel that difference. The energy of I am enough doesn't bargain, it doesn't cling stands. And that stillness is magnetic. In a world built on comparison, the person who's content within themselves becomes extraordinary. When you know you're enough, rejection doesn't destroy you, it redirects you. Criticism doesn't crush you, It refines you. You stop taking everything personally because your sense of worth no longer depends on someone else's opinion. You start to realize that peace isn't found in being liked, it's found in being aligned. That alignment makes your presence powerful because people trust those who are comfortable in their own skin. I am enough isn't just about self-esteem, it's a spiritual declaration. It's saying, I am complete as I am, and everything that's meant for me will meet me in this wholeness. You stop approaching life from lack. You stop thinking, once I have this, I'll be worthy. You realize you already are. And from that energy, you attract differently. Opportunities come not because you're desperate for them, but because you're ready for them. Relationships form not out of need, but out of choice. When your spirit carries the weight of that truth, you become unshakable. Because I am enough isn't just something you say, it's something you remember when the world forgets. And that remembrance turns ordinary confidence into divine certainty. Clarity has a language that silence can speak. When a person moves with purpose without trying to prove anything, their presence becomes undeniable. People are drawn to clarity the way they're drawn to light, not because it shouts, but because it illuminates. Desperation, on the other hand, clouds energy. It's loud, anxious, and heavy. You can feel it when someone is trying too hard, when every action carries the weight of wanting to be seen, accepted, or chosen. But the moment that energy shifts from trying to trusting, from forcing to flowing, attraction happens naturally. Clarity says, I know who I am and where I'm going. Desperation says, I'll be whatever you need me to be so you don't leave. One is grounded in identity, the other is fueled by fear. And people feel the difference instantly. The person with clarity walks into a room and doesn't compete, they contribute. They don't seek to impress, they seek to express. They move with intention instead of insecurity. That quiet confidence commands respect because it's not reaching for validation. It's radiating alignment. Desperation is the voice of scarcity. It believes there's not enough time, not enough love, not enough opportunities. It clings because it fears losing, but clarity knows that what's truly aligned will never require you to beg. When you live in clarity, rejection stops feeling like a loss and starts looking like protection. You trust that the doors that close are simply redirecting you towards something more fitting for your peace. That trust is what makes you magnetic, because peace is attractive and peace comes from clarity. Think of it this way: people are naturally drawn to those who seem at ease in their own presence. When you're not trying to be everywhere or everything, your focus sharpens, your energy steadies, and your words carry more weight. You're no longer scattered by the opinions of others. You're anchored in your truth. That's the difference between chasing and attracting. One says, I hope they choose me. The other says, I already know where I belong. A clarity doesn't compete with noise, it quiets it. It doesn't chase attention, it commands it. And that's the paradox. The more certain you are of yourself, the less you have to say to be seen. When your happiness no longer depends on others, you step into the highest form of freedom. It's not isolation, and it's not indifference. It's independence of spirit. It's the moment you realize that no one else holds the keys to your peace. You stop waiting for people to apologize before you forgive. Stop waiting for someone's attention to feel worthy. Stop waiting for life to go your way before you decide to be grateful. You understand that happiness isn't something you receive, it's something you choose, and that choice becomes power. When your joy stands on its own, you stop giving people emotional credit for your peace. You no longer ride the highs of approval or sink into the lows of rejection. You start to see relationships differently, not as a source of happiness, but as a reflection of it. You give love freely because you're not afraid of losing it. You let people come and go without losing yourself in the process. That detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you steady. People feel safe around steady souls. They're drawn to those who don't crumble when things don't go their way, who can stay kind in chaos, calm in conflict, centered in uncertainty. When your happiness is internal, you stop chasing temporary highs. You don't need someone to text you back to feel seen or praise you to feel proud. You already know who you are. That's what creates true attraction. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone else showing up, right? You become whole, and wholeness is magnetic. Others may not even understand why they're drawn to you. They just feel that your energy doesn't take, it gives. It's a quiet transformation, one that replaces insecurity with inner security. You start celebrating people without comparing yourself. You start listening more and proving less. You can love deeply without losing your center because you're not sourcing your worth from the outside anymore. You're rooted in something unshakable. That's the kind of strength that glows. It's not loud or boastful. It's the peace that walks into a room and reminds everyone what wholeness feels like. When your happiness comes from within, everything you attract becomes a reflection of your peace, not a replacement for it. Detachment is often misunderstood. People think it means you stop caring, that you turn off your emotions and build walls around your heart. But true detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring without clinging. It's the art of loving fully while remaining free. It's being able to give your best to someone or something without losing your peace when the outcome doesn't go your way. That's emotional maturity, the balance between passion and peace, connection and composure. When you care without clinging, you stop trying to control how things unfold. You stop rehearsing every conversation, replaying every moment, wondering what you could have done differently. You understand that life moves in divine timing and that forcing things only breeds resistance. You can love someone deeply and still let them go if that's where the path leads. You can pursue a dream wholeheartedly and still stay calm when doors close. Detachment gives you that strength, the ability to remain soft without being shattered. People who master detachment are some of the most peaceful souls you'll ever meet. They don't panic when plans change or people shift. Their hearts are open, but their happiness is protected. They don't chase validation because their worth isn't tied to being chosen. They've learned that love given freely is far more powerful than love given fearfully. Detachment transforms relationships not because it creates distance, but because it removes desperation. It allows love to flow instead of being forced. When you detach, you stop being reactive. You start responding from clarity, not emotion. You begin to understand that not everything that touches you needs to take you. You stop giving your peace away to every situation that disappoints you. That's what makes your energy magnetic. It's grounded, not grasping. People feel safe around you because you're not trying to pull them into your storm. You bring calm, not chaos. Detachment is freedom wrapped in compassion. It's the quiet confidence that says, I can love you and let you be. It's the strength to hold space without holding on. And when you learn to care that way, deeply but lightly, life flows with ease, love deepens, and your soul finally breathes. The deepest attraction doesn't come from noise or effort. It comes from calm. It's not found in the ones who are constantly trying to be noticed, but in those who already know who they are. When your soul is calm, people feel it. There's something magnetic about quiet confidence, about the energy of someone who doesn't need to prove anything. You walk differently when your peace is intact. You don't rush to explain. You don't compete for attention, and you don't chase what's not aligned. You simply move from presence, and that presence draws others in without a single word. When your ego is running the show, everything feels like a performance. You speak to impress. You give to be noticed. You love to be validated. But when your soul takes over, the energy shifts. You no longer do things to get something back. You do them because they feel true. The calm within you becomes louder than any effort to persuade. People start to sense that you don't need them to complete you, and that realization makes them lean in even more. Because peace is irresistible. Calm energy doesn't mean lifeless energy, it means controlled power. It's the quiet strength that doesn't demand to be seen, yet can't be ignored. It's not indifference, it's security. The kind that says, I'm okay whether you understand me or not. That kind of energy carries authority without words. It brings harmony to a room without effort. It disarms people because they can feel there's no hidden agenda, no emotional tug of war, no need to dominate or chase. When your soul is calm, your connections become deeper. You start attracting people who are drawn to peace, not drama. You no longer resonate with chaos because your spirit recognizes balance as home. The relationships you form become cleaner, not built on need, but on mutual respect. You're not trying to pull love toward you. You're simply radiating it. The ego wants noise, attention, and approval. The soul wants stillness, truth, and alignment. And when you live from the latter, attraction becomes effortless. You stop trying to impress people into loving you, and instead your calm becomes the reason they do. Because peace, real peace, is the loudest language the soul can speak. Love and respect naturally find their way to those who have mastered inner stillness. It's not a coincidence, it's spiritual alignment. When your heart is calm, when your energy is grounded, people feel safe around you. You become the kind of presence that doesn't drain, but restores. You don't need to demand attention or control anyone's perception of you because the peace you carry speaks louder than any effort ever could. Stillness creates gravity. It's the kind of quiet power that makes people pause, notice, and listen, not because you ask them to, but because your presence commands it without force. Inner stillness isn't the absence of emotion, it's the mastery of emotion. It's knowing how to stay composed when others are chaotic, how to listen when everyone else is reacting, how to remain kind even when it's easier to withdraw. That kind of control is spiritual strength, and it's deeply attractive because it's rare in a world filled with anxiety and noise. Someone who can stay centered becomes a mirror of what everyone's soul is longing for: peace. Love is drawn to peace because peace feels like truth. Respect flows naturally towards stability because stability feels safe. You don't have to convince anyone to treat you right when your energy already teaches them how. People instinctively honor what feels authentic, and authenticity is born from stillness, from knowing who you are beyond moods, beyond opinions, beyond validation. When you've cultivated that inner calm, you no longer chase people or prove your worth. You're not moved by gossip, rejection, or misunderstanding. You understand that what's meant for you doesn't need defending. You don't shrink to be accepted or inflate to be noticed. You move with quiet assurance, trusting that life is always working in your favor. And that trust, that peace, becomes your most magnetic quality. Stillness changes the energy around you. It slows things down. It invites others to breathe, to settle, to open up. You become the calm in someone else's storm. You attract not because you're trying, but because you're aligned. Love and respect can't help but move toward that kind of energy, because stillness isn't passive, it's powerful. It's the proof that your spirit has found home within itself. The 4 words that magnetize hearts aren't spoken to manipulate or impress. They rise from a place of spiritual power. They come from someone who has learned that real attraction isn't about strategy, but about energy. When you speak from peace instead of pressure, truth instead of performance, your words carry weight. They don't just reach ears, they reach souls. People can sense when your words are pure, when they're not designed to get something, but to give something. That's why those 4 words, born out of spiritual strength, carry more influence than charm ever could. You see, words are energy. When they're rooted in clarity, humility, and love, they create resonance. But when they're born from insecurity or need, they create resistance. The difference is felt, not heard. Someone who speaks from strength doesn't chase reactions. They speak because they have something worth saying. Their words carry authority because they're anchored in stillness. There's no hidden agenda, no emotional debt, no demand, only truth. And truth spoken calmly is irresistible. Those 4 words that attract anyone, whether it's I am at peace or I'm already whole, are not magic spells. They're reflections of a state of being. They communicate alignment, self-trust, and detachment from outcome. When you say them, not as defense, but as declaration, your energy shifts. You stop begging life to give you something and start embodying that you already have enough. And people feel that. They sense the difference between someone who's trying to be chosen and someone who's already chosen themselves. When you live in that truth, your words become extensions of your essence. They don't come from fear, they come from fullness. They're not rushed or desperate, because your peace doesn't depend on the response. That's why they land so deeply, because they carry the vibration of authenticity. People are drawn to those who don't need to convince anyone. They trust those who speak from conviction, not from need. When your words are born from spiritual strength, they heal, they attract, they align, because the real power isn't in the phrase itself. It's in the energy behind it. And when that energy is grounded in truth, your words stop chasing connection and start creating it. At the end of it all, every truth about attraction, confidence, and connection comes down to one thing: alignment. When you no longer chase what is fleeting and instead become grounded in who you truly are, the world starts to move differently around you. You stop begging life to notice you because your very presence becomes evidence of purpose. You stop running after people because peace starts walking beside you. The greatest magnetism you'll ever carry isn't in your appearance, your charm, or your words. It's in your energy. When your spirit is anchored in stillness, your heart in gratitude, and your actions in truth, you begin to draw in everything that was meant for you. The right people, the right opportunities, the right timing, they all recognize peace when they see it. You don't need to chase what already belongs to your frequency. So say the words, live the truth, and walk with quiet authority. I am enough. I am whole. I don't need this. Not as an act of rebellion, but as a declaration of freedom. Because the moment you stop grasping is the moment you start glowing. And when you glow from within, you don't have to attract anyone. They'll be drawn to the light that never fades. That's not confidence. It's clarity. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. And when your soul reaches that place of peace, everything that's meant for you will find its way home without you ever needing to chase it.